Hi friends, welcome to this latest segment of Authors and Book. Today we have with us Ambassador Anil Trigunayat ji. Anil ji, most welcome to this show. And Ambassador Anil
Thank you, Arun.
ji, he is a former Indian ambassador to Jordan, Libya, and Malta. He also currently heads the West Asian Experts Group at Vivekanand International Foundation, which is a prestigious think tank in India. Apart from that, he regularly comments on the international relations at various forums. And today we are going to talk about his book. And this is the copy of the book which I am showing you. So, the title of the book is West Asian Dynamics and India's Strategic Imperative. So, sir, the first thing which I want to ask is about the last chapter which you have written. It's basically West Asia in the throes of a disruptive 2023 and not so different 2024.
We have seen that since 2010-11, if not before, there have been many things that have happened there, which are essentially pertaining to geopolitical, geoeconomic, geo-religious, and geotechnological competition. We have seen the Arab Spring had impacted all the regimes, and while in Tunisia and Egypt, these were essentially sui generis. What we saw that the US and other governments, French and others, dislodged the other regimes like Libya and others, and I used to be ambassador there at the time. So that has created a major problem even in the this middle part of the Middle East, like the Gulf countries, which are mainly monarchical in region, and therefore the kind of democracy they have is a selective kind of a democracy. Even though some of them, like Kuwait, have very robust democracies in comparison to others, and very often we see that. But the rest of the countries, Egypt, for example, now once again we have the same presidency. Sisi there. Jordan calls itself a democracy. So we have these countries which have democracies, but at the same time, this is one region where we have seen the maximum number of hotspots which have not been addressed so far and which continue to smolder. For example, Libya is still uncertain. It's divided into two. There are two governments, two prime ministers, and two parliaments. We see Iraq is still not stable after that US invasion of Iraq. We are seeing Syria continues to remain in the throes of uncertainty. We are looking at Palestine, which is 75-year-old, and there are already six times Israel and Hamas have fought in Gaza in the last since 2007-8, and Lebanon is again burning. So I thought that all these major hotspots in the region can have a spiraling impact at any time. That was the problem last year. Then, of course, there was an impact of the pandemic. There was an impact the Russia-Ukraine war in the region, which all these countries, because the food security is very important for this region, and they provide energy security to most of the world. Then you have these maritime routes, which go through the majority of the trade goes through this, whether it is through the Hormuz Strait or the Red Sea or the Suez Canal. So now we are looking at this. This was the thing, and then, as you know, in October 7th, after this attack, which Hamas carried out terrorist attack against the Israelis and killed about 1,200 people and took 250 hostages. And the response of Israel, which eventually turned out to be disproportionate and seemed like a collective punishment, gave you an assessment that there is this, even 2024 is going to be fraught with all these. And in that, we saw the role of Iran becoming far more central, because Iran has not only by itself a major power in the region and has a mutually assured destruction syndrome with Israel, but is also has proxies, which are very strong proxies, as non-state actors like Houthis in Yemen, Hamas in Gaza, and Hezbollah in Lebanon and Syria, which are very powerful forces which can supplement its efforts if it wishes to take any action. And many of them are Sunni groups also. So the Shia-Sunni divide does not seem to operate in this. And this is what we have seen. So Iran and Israel, in nearly this year, in April, came to direct conflict. I mean, it was avoided with great difficulty. So that war has spilled over into 2024, and we are nearly half of this year, and we are not seeing any major change happening.
Sir, you have talked about a paradigm shift in India's West Asian policy. So, if you could elaborate upon it, what's the shift in the West Asian policy of India? And has it
Well,
come
let's
from
say,
the current government, or
yes.
has the shift been there before 10 years also?
No, I can share with you some personal experiences also about this region. In fact, as I said, that this is, in my view, perhaps the most important geography for India, which is about 9.5 million Indians who are remitting about $60 billion to India every year. Now, they are very important. So, these three E's are extremely important from our point of view. Apart from the routes that I mentioned, the maritime security, and India is also a member of the, I mean, not is a basically is an arbiter or a security provider. Also, it has emerged in the region. Now, what we have seen is that for years together, we had this kind of a transactional relationship with these countries. Whereas we always say that we are historic civilizational connect from Dilmun time, 3,000, 5,000 years old relationships, and there was these maritime routes, Silk routes, which are going through this geography. But we just sort of, in my view, we sort of gave it up. How do I say that? You know, the last visit to UAE by a prime minister was by Mrs. Indira Gandhi in 1982. And this was the same story of most of these countries. They are just 3 hours away from us. What prevents you from just connecting with them when they are so important for you? I mean, it's not that they were not important. Whether you look at it from your expatriates point of view, whether you look at it from energy security point of view, they are. So transactional relationship was like we are buying oil from you, and our people are working, they are remitting the money, we are paying for it, and nothing more. But when I was a joint secretary in the ministry looking after the region, and at that time I was shocked to see that we did not have any visits for so long. And we tried our very, very best, very hard to get the Indian visits from India. At that time, Dr. Manmohan Singh, I took him to Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Oman and all those places. But what we saw is that the relationship was also predicated on one factor, which was Pakistan. We always thought they are Islamic countries and they are also close to Pakistan, and therefore they cannot be close to us. Now, that has been one of the factors that have been operating perhaps on our minds of policymakers. So we were keeping engagement as limited as possible whenever you meet them, but there were no specific effort made in that regard. And then we accused Pakistan that it is swaying all over when we were not making really any efforts. And when Prime Minister Modi came in 2014, that's when it really changed the complete complex of this relationship. And then he took over. I was ambassador in Jordan. And the Jordanian chief of royal court called me that time. And he said that, we just had this Arab League meeting and we are coming there. There was a great concern that with Prime Minister Modi taking over, the relationship of India will be far more closer to Israel at the expense of Palestine and at the expense of the Arab countries. And my response to him was that, number one, you are not the right person to tell me this because you yourself have a peace treaty with Israel and you have a very regular connect. So we continued and I tried to convey it to them. Fortunately, Prime Minister Modi started first visit to UAE. And then you know that his last visit was also to the UAE, a seventh visit, which has been unprecedented. He went to all these countries, and the relationship, which was merely transactional, has been converted to comprehensive strategic partnership with most of these countries. And therefore, this relationship today has moved into a very different kind of orbit. And I always say, when we talk about strategic means it is not only buying and selling. It has become much more investor. Like, for example, with UAE, we only used to buy oil. We did not have any stakes in their oil blocks. For the first time, they allowed us to have oil blocks in UAE. For the first time, they started working for strategic reserves, investing in India. For the first time, they started committing these countries, Saudi Arabia committing $100 billion, Saudi Arabia, UAE committing $75 billion. And the number of Indians in UAE has increased to 3.5 million, nearly one third of the total in UAE alone, which is a small country by itself. We have thousands of Indian companies operating there. It is our third largest trading partner. It is our Saudi Arabia, the fourth largest trading partner. Strategic partnership agreement with Egypt, with Greece. So we are looking at a very different way in a larger geography. When we have to continue on that, I always say that although Prime Minister Modi's foreign policy is generally successful, but the biggest success crown of this is in this domain, in West Asia. His West Asia policy stands out. He went to, and then he hyphenated the policy. I remember when I was ambassador in Jordan, then first time we arranged the visit of President Mukherjee. And the standard practice was that they will come to Jordan, go to Palestine, and then you go to Israel. You have to go to Palestine and Israel both. Prime Minister Modi changed that. He went to Israel separately. He went to Palestine separately. We have relations with Tehran. We have relations with Riyadh. We have relations with Tel Aviv. So India has not changed its basic premise of the policy, but the way it works and they all have great confidence in India. Now you have seen what happened in the case of Balakot and Pulwama. All these countries of Article 370. They maintained very clearly that it is India's internal matter. It would not have happened.
So you have also talked about India's Iranian dilemma, and recently we have seen, the Iranian president getting killed in a helicopter crash along with the foreign minister. So there seems to be, a lot of kind of upheaval within Iran, and there seems to be a pretty mysterious death. Some people are blaming Mossad also, but lately yesterday I had a conversation with one of the strategic affair experts. So he said that probably it's basically the chopper had crashed because of poor weather conditions, just like General Bipin Rawat's chopper had crashed. So, but how do you define this? But what exactly is the dilemma for especially the students of IR? If you could explain it a little bit.
Actually,
How
first let
India
me
is
tell you
handling.
this. Yeah. First, I must tell you about this crash. It was a very sad incident actually that happened because President Raisi and his foreign minister, they were working very hard to engage with India. So as we have seen Dr. Jaishankar and Prime Minister Modi both commenting and expressing their sadness. So that's in solidarity with the Iranian people. Fortunately, I just saw a few minutes back the preliminary report has been issued in which there has been, they say it is because of technical fault probably that happened. I mean, of course, now they have to go and why they were still using this 20-year-old American Bell aircraft, the helicopter, for which spare parts are also an issue, and Iran happens to be the biggest, most sanctions country. Now, as far as Iran is concerned, the India and Iran are historic civilizational partners. They have been very close proximity to us in the cultural and civilizational context. Our relationship was pretty good for a long time until the United States started imposing itself, and because of the nuclear posturing by Iran, and then you can imagine the Chabahar port we have been talking about since 2002 and 2003. And it was only in 2016 when Prime Minister Modi did go to Tehran. And that's when we signed this agreement, which has now been formalized for 10 years. And then it was decided that we'll be investing in this, and India started investing. But at that time, it was only for 1 year, yearly basis, when the Indian company IPGL was working on it. But now that we have decided that it will be 10 years, so it gives the investors, the users, a much greater confidence that this Indian company is managing it. It happens to be the first port that we are managing this way. Our relationship, the problem is that the sanctions in the US sanctions, which we directly don't recognize because they are unilateral sanctions, they are not given by the United Nations Security Council, which India really supports, but not the unilateral sanctions. But at the same time, the Indian companies which have to work, whether it's oil companies, whether it is the equipment suppliers or managers, if they are working in the Western countries, so obviously they are, they don't want to get into this being imposed, sanctions imposed on them for their other things. So more and more companies were not getting interested in dealing with Iran, which was a major source of an irritant with us. But Iran is a mature country. And as a mature country, they understood what they of course wanted India to show some teeth and start buying oil from there. But India has been managing it at the highest political level, has been at the P2P levels. So some trade has been going through. Some arrangements with regard to rupee real also has been going on. So India started working more on INSTC, more on IMAC and others as alternate corridors for this. So this is a dilemma for us, but I think the Iranians understand that India is a sincere and serious partner. They are now working with us in BRICS. India was instrumental in supporting Iran. Iran is a very important partner.
So one last question. You talked about in one of the chapters is about the unstable Middle East and India's options. So if you could, explain it a little bit that why do you call it unstable, the Middle East, and uh, what have you talked about as far as India's options are concerned?
Well, I think that the most important thing about the region, unfortunately, is because of external interventions and intra-regional rivalries between Iran and Israel, and earlier between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Now, of course, some rapprochement has happened between them, which is a very good thing, frankly. And they're also looking, as Act East policy means, more towards India and China and Japan and South Korea, which are their markets, and lesser towards Europe and America, which is a good thing from our point of view, because that's how the world is evolving eventually. So, but despite that, as I mentioned, there are several hotspots even now. Yeah, we have problems in Libya, we have problems in Iraq, Yemen, and Syria, now Lebanon. So there are a lot of destabilizing areas. Today, if there is let's say, a war between Iran and Israel directly, which was prevented recently, then everything is up in flames. So when everything is up in flames, then obviously our core interests like energy security, diaspora security, all this will be directly impacted. And that's why it's an unstable Middle East. But now what should India do? So I've been trying to say that we need to also, apart from bilateral approach that we have had with each country, we have very good relations. Prime Minister Modi is the most decorated head of government from any country by these countries. Everybody has given the highest honor to him. So our relationship needs to move into more into sub-regional and regional groupings, which would mean that it is like I2U2, that India, Israel, USA, and UAE, then IMAC, which is India, Middle East, Europe corridor. These are important initiatives that are happening in the region. And now India needs to take a regional approach also. Regional approach means you have to be more proactive. You'll have to be part of the process. Now, if they expect, very often I talk to many of my Middle East friends, and they tell me, they said, we are not sure what India wants. You want oil? We are giving you oil. Your people are working here. But what do you want more? Tell us. So like collaborations in space, in nuclear, in cyber, in other areas, is growing. More frequent meetings and discussions should follow. You see, with the Arab countries, and I told one late Sushma Swaraj that Arabs are very different people. Signing agreements with them or MOUs really doesn't matter much. Once they develop a personalized confidence with you, then it is very important. Another thing I would just like to say is many of them I have met and talked to, they are not even aware that India has the third largest Muslim population in the world. And India has had the only country in the world where minorities have become the heads of state, heads of all kinds of things, top Bollywood actors, which they like them a lot. And that is something that is also needs to be told to them, because so that this is one thing which Pakistan has been able to encash, and which we have failed somehow in the past to reflect that this is the issue. They need to understand India. They think India in a very different perspective. So their sensitivities, when they are going to respect our sensitivities, we need to also be very careful about their sensitivities.
Thank you, Ambassador Anil Trigunayat ji, and we look forward to your next book also. And once again, I want to
thank you so much.
yeah,
This book basically I had made was dedicated it to the civil services aspirants,
yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
and I hope that
Yeah, I think it's a book which
useful to
every
them.
student of IR should read, and apart from that, journalists should also. I think it's a good reference book also, and it's a good explainer also.
Thank you so much. But the best part about this book, I personally feel, is because one of my ex bosses Ambassador Raghunath, who was the Foreign Secretary, has written a very nice overview, even at this age.
No, no, all the best, sir, and thank you so much for taking
Thank
out
you.
time and being with us. And to our viewers, I just want to recommend this book, and you can buy it online also. And if you like the video, please share it, subscribe to the channel, and you can press the bell icon, and you'll get all the notifications for the new videos. And from our desk in this episode, so this is it, and we'll meet in the next episode of Authors and Books with a new author and a new book. And thank you very much, sir, once again, and all the best for
Thank
it.
you, Arunji. Thank you so much. Very kind of you.